Right now, delighted to say, nice and warm and cosy in the studio, is Howard Cox. He's a candidate for Reform Party UK for the Mayor of London. The next vote is next year. You're also founder of Fair Fuel UK. We've been talking to you about this stuff for years, have we not? We go back far too far, don't we, Howard? There's no doubt at all that this has become a major political battleground. The Conservatives say they're opposed to it as well. Why is Reform UK any different to Conservatives in terms of your opposition to this ULEZ expansion?
Well, it's not just the expansion. When I get elected next year, on May the 2nd...
We like the confidence.
Well, we've got to have that. We're going to get rid of all of ULEZ. It's not just... ULEZ, supposedly, it's done its job. So why do we need it now? Why do we need to keep actually charging people actually to enter a zone where, really, most of the cars have passed through MOT tests, they've passed the smoke tests, etc. They're perfectly OK. Yep. When the underground is so polluted, something like 1,800% more. Come down to the polluted underground, please, and come in, bring your dirty diesel, just as long as you give me the dosh. Yeah,
and it's always been thought of as a money-making exercise, as we know all of these things are. But this is the thing. It's been very controversial because of the huge costs. I mean, £12.50 a day. I mean, you're looking at over £3,000 a year. People who have to drive in every weekday. People who, by definition, it's the poorer people who are more affected, because rich people change their cars every few years, and they'll have cars which have been bought in the years since this was all mooted, and will know certainly when we bought our last car, second-hand diesel, but we made darn sure we were covered for the zone because we wanted to make sure we could still drive it. But there are literally going to be people, and people laugh at this, but there are going to be people who, to simply move out, drive their car out of their driveway, take their kids to the local school, go to the shops and pick something up, they will face a £12.50 charge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, but today is going to be legislative chaos, because something like 90% of the signs in South East London, for the Greater London area, have been wrecked by these Blade Runner groups. And I don't know who they are, and I don't condone them, but there's the frustration.
You have to say that, but your face says different, Howard.
Yes, I know a few of them, but honestly, I don't condone that method of doing things. And you probably saw the story yesterday that I got into the Sun regarding Noel Wilcox, the scaffolder, who's actually challenged the legality of these signs. These signs do not say, because you've got to have a big C.
It says you're entering the zone, but you don't know anything about the fine.
No, you don't. I mean, you don't. Well, I actually spoke to an American tourist who actually hired a car, would you believe, hired a non-compliant car, and went in and they got this fine sent to them in the States, and I know them quite well, but they thought it's the sign said low emission zone they were coming into. Oh, great. And she turned to her husband and simply said, we're going into a very clean area, aren't you? Isn't that lovely? Yes. They didn't know they had to pay for the privilege.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key thing, isn't it? We're told by the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, all the time that this is about saving lives and air pollution. Now, the fact is, the pollution levels in London, as with all other cities and towns in this country, has been plummeting for years. The air in London is the cleanest it's ever been since the Industrial Revolution. And getting cleaner. And people say, well, that's down to the ultra-low emission zone as it is. But it's not. It happened before the ULEZ zone, as exists right now, was brought in. We've also got this claim that this will save lives. And Sadiq Khan, he trots this out on social media and in speeches and interviews. Not on this show. Hello, Sadiq Khan. If you're watching or listening, stop being so scared and come and be interviewed by someone who's actually going to challenge you on a few of the things you claim and ask you to produce evidence, which you know you can't produce. Hell, maybe there's a reason why he doesn't come on my show, Howard. But he claims, and has been doing so for years, using this, again, completely dubious claim about 4,000 deaths from air pollution every single year in London. Let's debunk that nonsense right now.
Well, it is completely a statistical construct. You remember the COVID days with a certain Ferguson sort of construct and modelling. We were looking at something, I don't know how many millions of people were going to die, and nowhere near did. It's the same thing, and it came from Imperial College too. Yeah. And recently, though, the interesting thing is that I think it's Shirley, I can't remember her surname, the deputy mayor, also tried to actually manipulate data from the Imperial College because it didn't agree with them.
We've seen emails. Can you come to a different conclusion, please? Oh, yes, and by the way, the scientists were happy to do that. That's
they got £800,000, don't forget.
Most people are happy to do things for £800,000. But the key thing on that 4,000 deaths from air pollution, that's actually, it's not, even the statistical society said, and UKHSA said you shouldn't talk about things like that. What it is basically equivalent lives lost. And basically, so over the millions of people that live in London, and then it's 30,000 for the millions of people who live across the UK, the equivalent of those lives will be lost. over your lifetime. We are looking at, when they talk about this, what they really mean is you and I, Benedict, who's sitting here quietly for the moment, we're going to live maybe a few hours, maybe a few days, maybe a couple of weeks at worst, less, because we have not just cars, we have all other transport. We have fridges, we have electricity, we have gas central heating, we have fridges, we have all of the things that make life worth living, and by the way, keep us alive, because those things, hospitals, things like that, all of those things, we're going to live a little bit less, even though actually our life expectancy is largely going up anyway. It's an absolute it is simply a lie to claim that 4,000 people die each year from air pollution. Based
on this modelling, it's just extrapolate from on a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, they draw a line and they work it out, and it comes down to, I've actually got it worked it out, the same stuff. It's just half a day.
Yeah.
That's the saving. How can you measure that?
For me, you want to take 2 weeks off me living in a care home in my 90s in return for all the mod cons of modern life?
Yes, please.
So yeah, thank you very much. Can we just back to you, Benedict Spence? I mean, look, we barely drive our car. We certainly don't go into the congestion zone because I'm not paying £12.50 plus parking if you can get it, etc. It does put people off driving. Is there an argument that we should encourage people to drive less, or is that just about making money and let's face it, a lot of this is about controlling people?
Should we be asking people to drive less? You can't ask people who rely on driving to work to try to drive less. It doesn't work like that. And there's this suggestion that if you're a white man van, if it's just to do with your job, you can claim the tax back on it. But actually, that's not how things go. You might go to pick your kid up on the way back from work or something like that. Does it stop being a work? Yeah, it's one of those things where you just kind of go, the car is a fundamental fact of life now, as the horse used to be for people who do not live on fantastic transport routes.
Which is most people.
Yeah, they tend to be, most people, a lot of them tend to be of the lower income bracket, because especially in big cities, the ones that are well serviced by things like the tube are too expensive for poor people to buy. It is not just, I think, an attack on the motorist. It is on people who cannot afford alternatives. They are just taking money out of their pockets.
This is a very big point, a good point, isn't it? I mean, and Howard Cox, you've got the situation where policy is made in central London for the whole country and indeed for London by people who live very centrally. I'd like to point out that Sadiq Khan goes everywhere by armour-driven Range Rover. Now, he says this is for security reasons. He's had death threats, but nevertheless, that's how he travels. Doesn't have to worry about silly things like, getting around and paying for all that. But for most people, even in London, they don't live near a great bus route or a tube route or have the ability to get to their kids to school or to the shops or to work any way other than using their car.
Well, this is a mayor that's not only increased the cost of actually public transport, he's reduced various bus routes by something like 30%.
Yeah.
I mean,
buses are absolutely crucial to people.
Let's try and get as much money, because don't forget, he's a net financial manager of London. That's what's happened. He's got a huge black hole of a deficit, and he's thinking, hey, and this is true of national government as well. You should ask Mark Harper later when you speak to him. They're the easiest of cash cows. They contribute the 5th largest income to the Treasury every year without fail. And I know, and I've been told very reliably by someone who was Exchequer Secretary a few years back, they sit down at every autumn statement or spring statement in the budget and say, right, first on the list is how much more can we get out of drivers?
And that it's not just what it feels like, it is what actually happens, isn't it? Look, the mayor says, London Mayor Sadiq Khan says that most cars are compliant. The REC says they think 700,000 cars in total will be affected, 150,000 van drivers as well. I guess these will all be people on the lower incomes. But there is this scrappage scheme. It's up to £2,000, and he just laughed at that if you couldn't catch that sound. It was originally just for people on the lowest incomes, on benefits and the like. It's been expanded to, we're told everyone, 100 million quid, by the way, of taxpayers' money. So we are paying taxes to pay for someone to get rid of a perfectly good vehicle that works and is roadworthy, passed its MOT. What do you make of the scrappage scheme and its expansion?
Well, it doesn't touch the sides. It's ridiculous. And because of this £2,000 for people with cars, and I think it's £5,000 for vans, what we're seeing is that most of those cars are actually being sold outside of Greater London. Therefore, these polluting vehicles are just being moved elsewhere, if that's the logic.
Yeah.
And it's the most illogical thing possible. Taxpayers shouldn't be funding this. What we should be doing is spending money on clean fuel technology and incentivising people to move to that. That's simple.
Or if there was better public transport. Again, I still think a lot of people say, I'd pay for my car, I'd still rather sit in my car, thank you very much, and have my own music on and not have feral youth, haranguing me. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been on enough buses in my time.
Stop doing that.
I need to stop being... No one's called me youth for a long time, Benedict, I can assure you. In terms of the question we're asking our audience, and I'm asking this morning, who is going to win this war? Because it is feeling like a war on motorists. We're asking, do tweet at TalkTV, do text 87222, and you can call as well, 0344 499 1000. Who is going to win this war? Because we've got the vigilantes going out, pulling down the cameras, covering the cameras, spray painting them. We've got road signs being pulled down. We've got the Tory councils. They had their High Court battle, which they lost, but now they're refusing to put the road signs up warning. We've got these battles. The government say they want to go against it, but then, they haven't got the powers. Who's going to win?
Well, there's an injunction being put forward, I think it's September the 14th, by a person who's, basically, if it goes forward, a ULEZ expansion would have to stop immediately. And secondly, I'm off to an anti-ULEZ protest today in Whitehall. There's going to be about 1,000 motorbikers going up and down there. And we're going to put our message towards Sadiq Khan. And please, could you actually do something about this? And Mark Harper's got Section 143 of the Greater London Authority Mayoral, when it came in when we got Ken Livingstone and then Boris. And don't forget, Boris introduced this, by the way. We mustn't forget that. He could do something about it, Mark Harper. He could do it. And I wrote to him last November, on the day it was announced, ULEZ expansion, I said, please, could you intervene? Because you're interfering with actual road. It's not in the interest of road users. No. And you are responsible for the roads.
And my thing is, it's either cleaning up the air, which doesn't need cleaning up, or it really doesn't, or it's making money. It can't do both. No. So what a surprise, it's going to be making money. Well, Howard Cox, thank you very much for joining us. Reform Party UK candidate for the Mayor of London. That's the next election.